I'm back. Thank you so much for watching the last video. I know it was mostly friends and family that saw it, but I really appreciate you taking the time to check it out. And I'm glad that Idunu and the video are helping people work through their emotions the same way they help me. So thank you. Thank you so much. And if you haven't seen the video yet, I'm going to link it in the description box for you to check out. But today, I am back with a new film and new emotions. So the film I want to talk about today is called Concrete Utopia. It's a South Korean film. And basically the premise of this film is it is set in a dystopian, post-apocalyptic type Korea where all the buildings have been destroyed and there's only one apartment building left standing. And so because of this, people from outside are flocking to this apartment building to find shelter, and the residents of this apartment building then have to decide what to do with all these new people coming in. And some Lord of the Flies-esque shenanigans occur, which I love. Fun fact, I saw this film at TIFF last year, September 2023, and I really loved it. But I also got to be on the red carpet for the premiere, the North American premiere, I believe. I did not get to speak to the cast, but I got to see them walk by me and look pretty while doing it, which is fun for me because I'm a fairly new K-drama fan. So that was really exciting, and I'll put pictures up of my interactions. Well, not interactions, but like proof that I was there. It's on the screen. Seeing this at TIFF, I was already like, yeah, I'm gonna love it because I'm a K-drama fan. But fangirling aside, the film actually really got to me and actually made me very emotional for days after I saw it. And it's gonna be for some of the reasons I'll get into in this video, because I think the film either critiques or addresses some of the issues in our current day world. There are going to be some mild spoilers in this video, so just be aware of that if you want to check the film out. But let's get into it. The first thing I believe the film addresses and or critiques is capitalism. So in Concrete Utopia, like I said, there is one apartment building left standing, and the world is a post-apocalyptic dystopian type world. And in order to survive in this new world that they find themselves in, the residents of this building form a system.
일단은 비상 상황이니만큼 급한 건 시스템을 구축하는 게 중요한 것 같아요. 조직을 구성해서 위기를 헤쳐나갈 힘을 모아야겠죠.
They have someone who is the leader that everyone reports to. They have people in charge of cleanliness. They have people in charge of going out and finding food for the people in the apartment building. So they have this new system that is helping them live and thrive in this post-apocalyptic world. And the system is working fine. Everything seems to be going well at first, until we get to this scene where the food that is brought in is being rationed to the people living in the building. And we see that some people are getting more rations than other people because maybe they are the ones going out to bring food for the community, whereas some other people are not doing that, and so they're not getting as much.
아니 저기 밥소장님. 예, 맛있게 드세요. 어서 오세요.
자. 아니, 장난하는 것도 아니고 이걸로 일주일 어떻게 살아요? 물은 뭐야? 물 담다 말았어.
지금 물탱크 조금 남은 거 그거 싹 다 들고 온 건데 왜 그래 우리 빨리 좀 그래. 받아 좀 빨리.
아니 그거 가만히 앉아서 받기만 하면서 이기심 좀 버립시다.
아니 방범대 저 사람들만 다 챙겨주고 그러면 나머지는 뭐 굶어 죽으라는 겁니까? 뭡니까?
차등급으로 하는 거잖아. 일한 만큼 받는다.
아까 상황 모르면 좀 조용히 좀 하세요.
And this seems to make sense. It's like, yeah, like this person is literally risking their lives to go find us food. So the least we can do is give them this much back. But then you start to see that because of that, some people who live in this building are not getting enough to survive. And I don't know, maybe they couldn't go out for different reasons. They are sick, or they have different abilities, they have different skill sets, they have different circumstances that are preventing them from contributing as much as the people who go out and risk their lives. But because of this, then they're not able to live well in this new system. And I think that's not very different from the system that we live in today, where your quality of life is dependent on how much you contribute to society or how valuable society sees your contribution to it as. It's the reason why there are people at certain jobs who make more money than other people at other jobs, because society has decided that this job, this skill set is more valuable than others. So in our world that we live in, and in the world of concrete utopia, if you want a good life, if you want to live a comfortable life, then you have to earn that life. And when you're a new adult and you first go into the world, that can be kind of jarring, especially if you might know it, but you might not have experienced that before. So if you're coming from a place where you've had a safety net, you've had your family, you've had support, and then you have to start contributing to society to earn that life, it could be like, oh, I didn't know I had to do this much. I saw this tweet one time. Someone was like, oh, being an adult is waking up and fighting for my life every day, because that's how it can start to feel like I need to wake up and I need to just go, because I need to make sure that I'm good, or my family is good, or that we're safe or comfortable, different things like that. And I remember talking to my sister about this one time, and I told her, I was like, I feel like I took a breath in because I had something really big to do and to get through. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to push through this thing and get it done. But then I never got to release the breath, because after that, there was always something big to do, to get through. So it was always like, okay, breathe in, let's go. And then I've just been doing that ever since, in perpetuity. And I think for me, that taking the breath in and not being able to release it was also due to a bunch of many factors. And one of them is something I want to address next that I think the film also touches on. The next thing I think the film touches on is immigration and or how we treat foreigners. So like I said, this building is the only one standing in this society. And people from the outside, because there are no more homes, there are no more buildings, they're flocking to this building to find shelter. So the people who live there, the residents of the building, have to make a decision. On one hand, some of them are like, no, let's kick them out. We can't have them stay here because we don't have enough resources to support all of us. And on the other hand, some people are like, no, let's keep them in because we can try and figure it out and we can all find a way to coexist together. If you're someone who's lived in a different country where you're a foreigner, and you've heard the rhetoric, go back to where you came from, or you've heard people call you names or other forms of othering, then you know how demeaning it can be and how it can actually mess with you in ways that you didn't foresee or think about when you move there. Because on one hand, under capitalism, if I work hard enough, I can earn a good life. But then on the other hand, I still don't belong here. And there are people who do not want to let you forget that. I think Concrete Utopia really scales down those issues by putting all the characters in an apartment complex, because it's easy for us, I think, in the real world to keep debating and keep talking about what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and should we kick people out or should we keep people in, when the effects of our thinking or our decisions are not right in front of us. But by putting everyone in an apartment complex in this film, then when someone says, I think we should kick them out, we don't have enough room, we don't have enough resources, and the people are actually kicked out, you actually see them dying in front of you. And that makes the effects of your decision or your thinking more glaring to you. I think that forces us to address how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and what we truly think about what we think. You know what I mean? Do we really believe the stances that we take, or do we take them because we don't think about the consequences of those stances? Yeah, I think the film asks us those questions and makes us face them head on by putting them in this one building. And maybe in real life, it's not as simple as I'm making it sound in this video. Maybe there's a bunch of other things to consider. But I think at least considering as far as what would happen if what I believe or what I stand for or what I say actually goes through, how will that affect other people, rather than just saying, well, I think this, and so whatever, you know? Speaking of belonging, the third thing I think this film addresses is colonization. Something happens in this film that I don't want to say because I want you to experience it if you're going to watch the film, but something happens that I think is very colonizer coded. Because here are some people who walk into this apartment complex, even though they were not there originally, and they come in and then they start to decide how everyone should live. And I think there has to be some form of confidence and selfishness and maybe delusion that someone has to have for them to go into a space that they don't belong to and then say, well, I worked hard for this space, so I deserve to be here, I deserve to live well here. And if you want to live as well as I do, then you need to earn it from me in a way that I think is good enough. It's even more interesting when you think about the fact that these characters who are doing these things have been hurt in the past, have been down on their luck in the past, have experienced loss, and now have an opportunity to have the upper hand, and then take that opportunity and use it to put other people down and make other people experience the loss that they did. It's, I think, an interesting commentary on the way humans are and I guess the most negative aspects of the human condition, where, again, do we really believe in equality for everyone, or do we believe we have to be good and it doesn't matter how we get there? The final thing I want to mention that I think this film addresses is religion. There is Christian imagery littered throughout this film, and I'm a Christian, so when I see Christian imagery, it does jump out more at me. So I'm not sure if what I'm about to say was intentional or if I read into it because that's my worldview. But here is what I saw in it. So I think the first thing was, it was very interesting to see people in the film who profess to follow a way that tells them to love their neighbor as themselves, and then go and do the literal opposite of that, or be punished for trying to keep that. But really, the reason why I love this film so much is the ending sequence of it. And that ending, I kept going back to it for weeks after I saw this film because it was just on my mind, and really, again, I think it just addressed some feelings that I had in myself. But towards the end of the film, our main characters have to escape. And they're walking this dystopian land. Everything is cold and deadly. And they need to find a place to rest. And eventually they find a church. The church is knocked over. Like, everything's knocked over. It's on its side. But they're able to go in and have a peaceful night in there for what feels like the first time in the entire film. It feels like it's been go, 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 chaos, chaos, chaos. And now there's quiet and now there's peace. And they're able to actually sleep. And then in the morning, the sun rises, and because the church is knocked over, it has a stained glass window that's on its side, and the sun comes in through the stained glass window. And so our characters wake up and they see the light just shining on them, and it's so beautiful. And again, they're able to stop and admire the beauty and admire just how beautiful this moment is. And I remember watching that and feeling like, that's the moment of the birth release. That's the refuge, that's the safety that they've been looking for, that I've been looking for. And I know that the house of God isn't always like that for a lot of people. It hasn't always felt like that for me, even, because I always feel like I need to earn my way to him. But again, that picture just represented for me, this is what it's supposed to be like in the house of God. This is what it's supposed to be like to follow God. So I saw this film at TIFF, like I said, and TIFF is about a week and a half of just people watching different films. That's not to explain that. That's a very bad explanation of TIFF. It is a film festival where different films come and they get shown to the public. Directors and actors sometimes show up as well to discuss the films they've made. So I got to go and I got to watch a few films, which was really fun. But I remember leaving a screening one time, and everyone at that screening had come with like their family or their friends or their partners, and I was by myself. And I was like, oh, I'm alone. And I kind of felt like, I felt that loneliness of, oh, there's nobody here with me. And so I remember leaving the screening kind of feeling a little sad. And just thinking, well, I don't have the depth of community that I want, or that I thought I would have by now. And when I thought that, this other thought came into my head. And the thought was like, well, you can't complain because you haven't worked hard enough to get that community. You didn't put in the work to get it. So now that you don't have it, you shouldn't complain that you don't have it. And I think the ending of this film is really what the message of the film is for me, but also addresses that thought that I had when I was leaving the screening. So like I said, our characters are in this church. The sun is shining through the stained glass window. They're admiring the beauty. And then this woman from the outside, she comes to the stained glass window. It's broken, so there's a hole in the side. And she just peeks in through the window. She sees our characters, and then she leads them out of there to another apartment building that isn't standing. It's on its side as well, but there are people in there who have found a refuge there and are living there. And she leads our characters in there, and everybody there is so nice and so welcoming. And one of the women gives one of our characters something to eat. She's like, here, eat this. And then our character asks, am I just allowed to live? And she's coming from a place where for her to live comfortably, for her to have nice things, she has to earn them. So her getting that without doing anything is shocking. So she asks this woman, am I allowed to live? And the woman is like, what kind of question is that? Like, she looks at her like, what are you saying? And she says, if you're alive, you can live. And that line, I was like, this is what I want. That refuge and that shelter that I think a lot of people are seeking was just so evident to me in that scene, in that line. And I've been talking about wanting to find that shelter, find that refuge outside and also inside of myself, not being so nervous or agitated all the time, but just finding peace and finding a place where I can be and not have to worry about how much am I doing to get this and am I not doing enough to get that, you know what I mean? And obviously I do think that just because of the world we live in, being a human being, being an adult, there are things that we're going to have to put in the work for. But I think living our entire lives continuously chasing things, continuously being agitated, having to earn and having to prove in every area of our lives all the time, it's a little bit crazy. So I found that I love moments where I can just be, just breathe, just relax, not have to overthink, not have to over worry. Having that refuge. And honestly, that's kind of what I hope, this is what I hope this space on the internet is for people, is just a place where we can all release the breath and just be and not have to overthink things too much, even though I feel like I've done that in this video. So yeah, that's Concrete Utopia and my feelings towards it. I should say also, I saw this film, or I rewatched this film on a site called Rakuten Viki. So if you want to check it out and you don't know where to go, it's streaming on there. You're able to rent it from there. But yeah, thank you for watching this. If you do see the film, please let me know what you think. I think it'd be interesting to talk about it in the comment section. Yeah, and have a good day, good night, good morning, whenever you're watching this.